ourselves the elite.
If not us, who?
A little bit of the bubbly.
And if not now, when?
We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you.
This is an official declaration of war.
Change the world.
We are going to change the whole universe!
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
This is a family! This is a revolution! We can never stop!
All elite wrestling.
For the 48th time, it's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. I am your host, Bryce Reed, and I'm joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
What's up, dude?
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Jonathan and I are two friends, fans, lovers of professional wrestling who are here every single Friday morning with all the latest news from All Elite Wrestling, thanks to our EVP, Chris Genro, and our supporters on Patreon. Listeners, we need your help. Each week, JD and I roll out with the most in-depth AEW show on the web, but it only grows through the financial support of our fans on Patreon, a pay-what-you-want subscription service that helps us make this show better and better every week. Subscribers get a ton of awesome perks within our community, as well as bonus episodes, access to show notes, and getting to watch us record the show live. All of the money we make goes into making this show better for you. It will always be free, but if you love what we do and you want to help us do more, please head to patreon.com/seeingtheelite. That's patreon.com/seeingtheelite. This is not a sports entertainment show. It's an entertaining sports show supported by fans like you from all over the world on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars. Just like Meltzer, it makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Facebook.com/seeingtheelite, Twitter @seeingtheelite. If you really want to be in with the crew, full of an enormous chat that I had to try to read through today because I wasn't there last night due to really.
You actually tried to catch up on this, dude. I just scroll all the way through all that.
Dude, scroll hundreds and hundreds of communications from everybody. Unfortunately, last night I was stricken with some sort of terrible disease for the entire day and slept for what felt like 30 hours. So I wasn't in the chat live last night, and that's also why if anything seems a little off with this show today, that probably has something to do with it. But I did try to catch up on that today. Everybody tweeting or rather communicating about a really eventful episode of AEW Dynamite that we're going to get to. But what a blast, man. tinyurl.com/seeingtheelite gets you the invite to our Discord server, our awesome community of AEW fans from all over the world. That's tinyurl.com/seeingtheelite. Shout out to Equal Scorpion 1, the champ. Revolution is imminent. Will it be a revolution in our championship rankings for the Discord server? Who knows at this point? Who can say? All I know is he's not a one-time Tommy, Equal Scorpion 1. He's done it more than once, men at the top of the mountain. So we'll see if anyone's able to take that from him come Revolution.
But by more than once, he means twice.
JD on the time codes, as always. We're going to start with actually a couple of quotes because we had a very eventful week with both Brandy and Cody giving exclusive interviews to F4W Online.
Yeah, they've been out doing press this week for the show in Atlanta as well, so it's been a lot.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. A lot of people saying a lot of things, but there are 2 really important quotes to pull here. The first is kind of a big deal, and it's interesting to talk about, and we will talk about it. But it's it's really a fascinating creative idea here from Brandy Rhodes. Quote, "The Nightmare Collective became the Nightmare Collective. There was no original, hey, let's do a Nightmare Collective where we have all these people and doing all of these things. It was never that. The original thing was supposed to be myself managing Awesome Kong. She came to me with the idea to change her look and vibe, but still being an assassin of sorts, a threat to the women's division. She had this idea to cut hair as a trophy to keep, and Awesome Kong is not a talker. So naturally, a good fit was for me to be the one to talk. Unfortunately, you can lay out a huge trajectory of what you want to do, and sometimes things happen that don't allow that to happen. One of the things I noticed was that Awesome Kong was not physically feeling great. I would never want to ask someone to work in a capacity where I know they're going to hurt themselves. What then happened was a greater group discussion of what do we do here? And the Nightmare Collective came to be. There were great ideas coming from various directions, from various people I respect, wanting to help. One of the things we claim at AEW is that we let artists play their music the way they want to play it. I'm one of the artists that's part of the Nightmare Collective, and I started to see the music was not playing how I liked it. I didn't feel it. Audience members were on the same page as me. I was starting to feel like I'm not really understanding this, or things were happening too quickly. A big misconception is AEW made changes. Not at all. I did. 100%. If I'm going to do something, I want to be happy with it, and I was not happy with it. I wasn't happy with me in it, how other people were being perceived and portrayed. I made the decision to do the Therapist series. People loved it. It was cool, and that was just me. I didn't want to take the TV time. I wanted to do it on my own. I personally didn't see myself as an asset to that situation. A lot of times people say, we did all this because Brandy wanted to. Absolute opposite. People were encouraging me to continue on, and I didn't feel like it, and I didn't want to. When too many cooks get in the pot on something, you're going to see that. I think fans started to see that in the end. There were people who were passionate about this and who tried to keep it going. Like the one time I was on commentary, that part wasn't for me. That was not me. That was creative ideas coming from another direction. A lot of times it's easy when my name is attached to something to call it mine. A lot of people know that's not true, end quote. From Brandy Rhodes. So basically her talking about the end of the Nightmare Collective. And we got this video this week, the third installment of this therapy series, with her taking all of the clothes that she had worn, the singlet and the hairpiece that she was wearing, and putting it in an Amazon box, and putting the sock monkey in there too, and burning it all. And that was, I guess, supposed to be closure to it. But really crazy to think about them just sort of publicly killing an angle in a way where they're like, hey, this isn't working. We all know it's not working, so we killed it. And kind of fascinating because like WWE like doesn't do this shit, or when they do it, they try to do it in a way where they feel like you shouldn't notice or whatever. But her kind of publicly coming out and saying like, yeah, I didn't understand what we were doing, and nobody else understood what we were doing, so I just killed it. I think is really a really interesting and sort of transparent and fan-forward way of handling this really unfortunate situation, because ideally it would just be good and then they wouldn't have to kill it, right? But it got away from them, as sometimes, you know, a creative endeavor can sometimes just get away from you, and then it's this other thing you didn't want to make in the first place, and then it sucks, right?
Especially something like this. Yeah,
especially something that you're doing live, and especially in this case where she said, like, we had this idea and then, shit happened. And then so we had to sort of change the idea to this other thing. And when you're doing live TV every week, like that can happen. I guess, Jonathan, how do you feel about this idea that like they can just get to a point with something and then just be like, eh?
So, I've been saying like past 3 weeks now, like Nightmare Collective's dead because of that first segment, this first therapy segment, and then some of the reports that have been coming out is like, yeah, Nightmare Collective's dead. They see that it's not working, so they're just stopping it. I'm fine with them seeing that it's something is not working and just hitting the stop button on it. That's the best way to do this. In my industry, you know, we're told for the most part to fail fast, and it
Yes.
is true.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. They saw they did it something. They failed. They failed quickly. They didn't make you sit around for weeks and weeks and weeks of this is really not working and this is dragging everything down. They saw that it wasn't working. They gave it a little bit extra time than it needed, and they just stopped.
Yeah, because you don't want to feel like you're not giving someone an opportunity to try and fail and then succeed, right? But at the same time, like, there's 2 hours of TV time a week. It's at a premium. And every minute that she's on the screen is a minute that somebody else could have, right? So
Yeah, and, you know, I'm not one of the people who was very egregiously turned off by this whole thing. I thought it was it was something that could work. I do agree that doing it while you have the Dark Order was not a great idea. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I was still kind of on board until they brought in Luther as the, you know, enforcer.
right.
Really, everything was working until then. But that was the point where it's like that and the thing with Mel, that was really just, this is not working to me. But
Well, it definitely makes sense now why they ended up bringing in Luther, right? Because it would be like, why do we need Luther as an enforcer if we already have Kong, who's an enforcer, and we already have Mel, who's bigger than most women in this division already?
like, I mean, they could have still brought in Luther as an enforcer, but because that was just it. They needed, and that they really didn't need to at all. They could have, even though Kong was not physically fit as she was hoping to be,
Right.
they could have still. They didn't need to bring a male into it. That's the part where I think that it really fell apart. Is like, this really worked as this dark, twisted, witchy.
Yeah, it felt like it was a
female
really
thing.
feminine forward thing, and then once they brought Luther in, it was like, oh no, it's just like a club.
Yeah, and that's where it really fell apart, because like, if they had just focused on the women's division, it probably would have went over a lot better. Now, I do feel like the big impetus behind this is that they really thought Kong could do one more run, and I don't think that they realized just how bad of a shape her body is from many, many years of wrestling and her other endeavors. So that kind of backfired on them. I've read a lot of things of talking about this quote and the interview Brandy did, where people are getting really negative about it again, and it's like, I'm kind of over it. It's like, you shit talk Brandy because she's on TV. You shit talk Brandy because she's wrestling. You shit talk Brandy because she's talking. No matter what you say, she is one of the better talkers in the company.
The hate that she gets is absolutely ridiculous,
And
I really don't understand it at all, especially in this, because I think this is a deeply like fan friendly, like, smart move. She's like, hey, I did this thing. It didn't work. I realized it didn't work, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time with it.
yeah,
We're just going to move on.
And now the hate is, well, you're making this all about yourself. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Like,
I don't know what you want her to do, man.
It's just, I hate to say it, and if I upset any of our fans by saying this, I do apologize. Wrestling fandom is extremely misogynistic to the point where it's bad.
No, I mean, that's unquestionably true.
And
I don't know who you would piss off by saying that.
I
mean,
don't.
you can. I mean, the overwhelming majority, not the overwhelming majority, but enough of the fandom, like, you can feel it.
Yeah,
for different things, and they'll come out and attack women who, like, are fucking trying.
Yeah, and it's terrible, and we get to these points where it's like, yeah, she's talking about a gimmick that, yeah, she's making it about herself because she was the one in creative control of the gimmick.
Right. She's trying to be honest with you.
This is not kayfabe. She's not bullshitting people and just being like, oh yeah, this was fucking my idea, but everyone else ruined it. She's like, no, wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling doing the thing anymore, so we're not going to do it.
So
anymore.
we're not doing it.
Kind of like came out and like creatively killed it on the air too. Which
Yeah,
is kind of interesting.
Like it lined up really well with everything and it had a good benefit out of this, because I don't think the portion with Cody and the 10 lashes would have had so much resonance if Brandy had not walked out and tried to comfort her husband.
No, man. What a moment.
And if she was still doing the nightmare thing, that would have been real weird.
Yeah. Good. I mean, I just think it's good guy AEW stuff. You know, when they sat there and they told us, you know, hey, or, you know, when Cody was like, hey, if something's not working, like, let us know. Like, we're here to create the best product we can for you. So let us know when things don't work and just be patient that we're going to try to find something for you that's awesome. This is them putting their money where their mouth is and being like, okay, this isn't working, so, like, we'll cut it.
Yeah, we fucked up.
And, you know, Brandy's the perfect one to be able to do it because Brandy, it's not like Brandy now doesn't have a job.
Right.
She still works there. She's still getting paid exactly the same amount. So it doesn't matter that she, you know, it's not like if the Dark Order wasn't working or something and then it's like, okay, well, then what do you do with those guys? It's her losing this part that she's doing on TV does absolutely nothing for her. And the fact that she only started doing it to sort of be a mouthpiece for Kong and it wasn't like a creative direction she went down for herself is first indicative of how it ended up coming out quality-wise, but it's also like further proof that it's like, oh, okay, so it's not like a big deal that she could drop it and move on, and it's fine.
Yeah, and you know the big thing to me is they saw it didn't work, they stopped, and they didn't take up TV. Which they understand they have value. 2 hours, less than 2 hours a week.
Right.
So they did the therapist thing, and they put it out on Twitter and in the Road 2 videos. Mm-hmm. So it was never on actual TV. We're not taking up any time on TV to fix this.
Right. So,
you know, you're doing the right thing here. You saw it didn't work. You took to another avenue where your diehard fans and your fans that really, you know, wanted to see every aspect of the picture could still find the material, could watch it, could consume it, and boom, the gimmick is dead.
Yeah.
Pretty fucked up that she, you know, set fire to one of Pharaoh's toys. That's real fucked up. But, you know.
Well, if you watch the cutting, I'm not sure that's what happened.
I'm just saying, but, you know, you watch the video, you like, what? Why would you do this to your dog? Why?
The other quote's a little smaller and requires a little less discussion. Quote, I think the initial talk was like, oh, it'll be like Dark, but on another channel. I don't think it'll be like Dark. I think it's going to be its own animal, and we would want that. We would want to test ourselves, and this is a test for us. So I think it'll be something different, end quote. That comes to us from Cody Rhodes. In regards to this third-hour television show they're doing, they also spoke openly about how what Cody said he's not allowed to call a mid-card title would likely be tied in heavily to that show, that they have some sort of unique idea that they hope people stick with them on, and that it will be somehow tied to this second show for TNT.
I'm going to call a shot and say either that title is introduced at Revolution or the first champion will be crowned at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He said by the end of 2020 we'll have this thing.
I could see them doing a battle royale at Double or Nothing for some form of a title shot again.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Let's move on to the rankings. No change in the champs this week for the tag team division, of course. The Lucha Brothers are in at number 5, although it's important to note because they were the last team to beat Hangman and Kenny, they have a title shot this week in Atlanta, Georgia. JD's going to be there live.
Can't wait.
Number 4, Santana and Ortiz. Number 3, Dark Order. Number 2, Young Bucks. And number 1, SCU, with Hangman and Kenny in the championship spot. Most of these rankings are kind of inconsequential right now because we have the Lucha Bros getting their title shot next week, and then everybody else is, I guess, besides the Dark Order proper, are in the Battle Royale.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in that Battle Royale which don't reflect on the rankings. So I would say tag team rankings are kind of pointless.
For this run up.
Until after Revolution, they're kind of
Right. In the women's division, Britt Baker at number 5, Yuka Sakazaki at number 4, Chris Statlander at number 3, Hikaru Shida at number 2, Nyla Rose at number 1, and Riho at number 2, or at champion rather. Now this, of course, has changed. Nyla Rose is now the champion, which, from what we've seen, reverts Riho to number 1. And
I could see her being lower than 1. I could see Hikaru Shida being bumped up because Shida, I think, has a win over Riho.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Maybe, hopefully, because I wouldn't like them to turn around. I don't
want to see another. I don't want to see another Riho Nyla Rose match for a little while.
Yeah. The men's division, Kip Sabian at number 5, Kenny Omega at number 4, Pac at number 3, Cody at number 2, Jon Moxley at number 1, and Chris Jericho as the champion. This is where it is and where it's going to stay
until
for the
Revolution.
run up to the pay-per-view.
I would say I think they need to take Kenny off.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because he's in the tags division?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
well,
hard,
not even
though.
that you're he's in the tag division. He's the fucking tag champ.
Right. Yeah, I do wonder if there should be if you hold a title, you're not eligible for other titles. Like, it's okay to work in both divisions, but if you hold one title, you're not eligible for other titles.
Yeah, because that's you're stagnating yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we haven't seen Kenny do a singles match in a while, so that too.
Right. For smart, creative reasons, we haven't seen him do one in a while, right? Because it just confuses things. So,
have you seen the rumor?
No. What are we talking
about the Exalted One?
No. What's that?
The rumor that's going around Reddit and Twitter and places is that the Exalted One is Kenny. How fucked would that be, dude?
That'd be wild, dude. What? That'd just be like, why? Okay. I guess that's kind of cool. I mean, if they could find a cool reason for it.
Well, so there, in this we'll talk more about this. Like, the Dark Order did that thing in the beginning match. They're saying the Exalted One is closer to you than you realize. So the big red herring there is like, oh, it's Christopher Daniels. Mm-hmm. But that's real obvious.
Right.
Because he's already had that split personality shit.
If I remember correctly, they said, we are numerous. Some of us are closer to you than you realize. Not that the Exalted One is. And only that they are awaiting the Exalted One. But
you never know.
Who knows? Being the Elite number 190, Rocket City, the show opens with Matt Jackson aproned up and ready to dole out espressos. He's got two, one with Nick, written with a K, of course, and Brendan's names on them. This makes, he like basically socially pressures Brandon to drink his, and then Nick just straight throws his over his shoulder, which is funny because you can see it's water when he does.
Yeah, just pure water. There was
Matt reveals he's strongly considering opening up his own coffee shop because, quote, this EVP job sucks. As we go to titles, more of this sort of play on his coffee shop fantasy that he has.
I'm gonna say the inner monologue stuff needs to stop.
Yeah, it's worked less and less every time they've done it. I think Hangman's probably the only one who's ever consistently been funny with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Young Bucks really understand the joke enough, because it's not like scatterbrained enough. Whereas Hangman's was really just sort of like,
he's hungover and he just woke up and it's just all over the place.
Right, like stream of consciousness. Like it sounded the way that an inner monologue sounds, whereas theirs really doesn't. It just sounds like inner exposition.
like just more dialogue.
Right. We go into the titles, and then out of the titles, the Bucks are living the dream at Space Camp.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
It is funny to see how little this experience has changed in the last
Fuck
30 years.
those guys.
There's a significant amount of footage of them just sort of messing around at Space Camp, and it's exactly like it was when people were winning Nickelodeon trips to it like 20 years ago.
Yeah, you do. Because NASA gets zero funding.
It's like gravity chairs and like the spinning amusement park ride that's supposed to simulate something.
I mean, there's two sides of it. Well, it's to simulate G-forces.
Right.
So A, NASA gets no funding. B, it's not like they can like really put them through like actual astronaut space camp because people would die. Like, that shit's intense.
Sure, but it's very clearly like kind of like a children's museum.
Yeah,
Space Camp.
Space Camp's for kids. But still, fuck those guys.
And it was just funny to me to be like, wow, they really is like 98, maybe the last time they fucking updated this place. Because it's a lot of, you can just see half an inch of dust on everything down there, which is sad, you know.
It is. I agree. 100%, man.
In the next scene, Kip Sabian expresses his jealousy to Scorpio Sky regarding his trip to the Super Bowl and meeting with Olivia Benson. He says, I just wish I was there. And then Scorpio says, do ya? Chuckling to himself as the camera pans to show a stunned Frankie Kazarian who says, dude, what the fuck?
Best moment of the whole show, dude. That, like, it was the stun and just the hurt of his face that someone would steal his gimmick.
Scorpio says, I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to steal your bit. I just love it. And then the camera whips back over to Kazarian, who says, do ya? And he gets him on the rebound with it. Now CD enters and asks if they want to discuss their segment tonight, and Kaz says he can't right now, but, quote, find Scorp, end quote. Failing to look down, CD calls out for Scorpio Sky and then sort of wanders off as Sky just writhes in pain on the ground.
Yeah, he was just laying there, just dead, humping the ground.
What follows is a tense conversation between Sammy G and Brandon Cutler. Sammy throws a barb at Cutler about his win-loss record, and Cutler throws one back about Sammy injuring his foot on the cruise by taking his shoe off. Sammy then asks Cutler why he is so mean, and Cutler apologizes and says he's pretty sensitive about his win-loss record as it still sits at no wins. Sammy says he wants to help Cutler by introducing him to his advisor. Then we cut away to a funny Trevor and Arthur scene with Orange Cassidy, who Orange Cassidy appears to have been asleep the entire time.
Yeah, yeah, he just sleeps places. That's him.
Sammy takes Cutler to a room he is very suspicious of, and inside of is a man named Benigno Bodega, a Spanish Swami type character. I do not know if this is a character from Sammy's vlog or just some guy that Sammy knows, but I thought it was pretty funny. I thought the guy who played him did a good job. After making sure that Cutler has a valid credit card, Benigno reads from his deck of cards and finds that Cutler has an obsession with dungeons, which he immediately assumes is a sex thing.
I mean, it's a valid assumption.
Benigno then flips another card to see a dragon and puts it together. He says that he would never play Dungeons and Dragons because it's for nerds. And Benigno gives Cutler one question. He says he can ask him anything. Cutler says, will I win my next match? And Benigno very quickly says no. And then they smash cut to Cutler getting pinned by a kid in the ring, which I thought was absolutely perfect. Later, Matt is filling the espresso machine with the contents of 4 plastic water bottles. Not needing the bottles anymore, Matt does what we all do with plastic bottles and just throws them on the floor, you know, because he doesn't need them anymore.
As you do.
The merch freak enters and says he can do a trick and reuse these bottles. He then throws the bottles into the air and they turn into the new recycled material Young Bucks shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. Matt and also Kenny, who is in the corner reading a document with his shirt off, are stunned.
Again, as you do.
Right. Kenny's the funniest part of this whole thing. Kenny's like, what the fuck? Nick then throws 4 bottles at Kenny's chest, and a shirt just appears on Kenny. The shirt is made from organic cotton and
organic coffins, eh?
Organic, fresh pine box organic coffins. Organic cotton and roughly 4 plastic bottles. 100% of the profits go to pureearth.org. Which you can get on ProWrestlingTees.com. Backstage footage here, which is kind of interesting to see, of the Young Bucks and the Elite entrance. They sort of replay the Hangman beer segment from last week here, but this time the camera follows the Bucks as Matt's inner monologue kicks in. He wonders how this drink can be so alluring, referring to Hangman's beer, and he takes a sip and he hates it because he doesn't drink beer.
I waited 31 years to try this. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
Next, a slightly hungover Hangman walks into the best friend's dressing room. He asks where a private party are, but the best friends don't know who that is.
Of course they don't.
Hangman throws some money at best friends and then exits. And then the show finishes on some footage of the Bucks and Kenny carrying the freshly... forgive me. The freshly strapped Cody to the back, intercut with Hangman drinking alcohol. For a second, he puts the drink down, and it seems like he might join his friends at the end of it, but he doesn't, and later picks the drink back up, which I thought was directed really well, really funny, as we head out on the show. Good episode of BTE, but Matt Jackson or Nick Jackson actually did an interview this week where they were talking about BTE and how it's like the black sheep of the AEW content family, and how it's only kind of important. And having watched now nearly a year of BTE for the purpose of doing this show, they're right.
It's not really important, but it's kind of important, and it's honestly just for fun now, and I'm fine with that. Yeah. If they get too busy, I mean, it's very clear this will be the first thing to go.
Well, and we've seen weeks where they're really busy. And weeks where they're really busy, it's literally just like travel footage.
Which honestly, and this is my 100% opinion, that really shows the weakness of Brandon Cutler as the content producer, that he depends so much on the Bucks to get the content together, that even on that, when they have those super busy weeks and all you have is him walking out in the crowd and getting crowd footage, that's like, okay, dude, what, like, I know you, that this is kind of a little bit of them giving you a break because you're one of their best friends and you're also wrestling, but dude, you know, you gotta pull your own weight here.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's editing yet or not, or if Nick is still editing.
If it's still Nick editing, then that's real bad.
But I agree that, like, there are some weeks where it's like, okay, so you didn't shoot anything, but it seems like you would have had all this time where the Bucks aren't in it, and the Bucks are still like a super major focus on the show, and I don't think that needs to be the case. I think he should be reaching out to other guys who, have maybe the first segment on the show that week. So like, hey, Kenny, you're only in the first segment this week. Let's work out something to do in the second half for BTE.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like they don't have a multitude of people that they could ask to give content.
And so, some people have clearly been really proactive about it. Hangman especially has been really proactive about it. But I'd like to see, and I don't know if he's doing this or not, but it definitely seems like he could be more like okay, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, you're in, at the beginning of hour 2. So right after your segment, let's try to think of something to do or whatever. And really more with the women too. I feel like the women aren't hardly featured at all.
They aren't. The Sheeta was for a little while, but that kind of fell off. But there's also like, if you're really hurting for content, go talk to Chuck and Trent. Those guys did this for a very long time.
Right. Yeah. We then had a Road to Austin video, which actually launched around the same time. They usually launch around the same time, maybe a couple hours apart from each other.
About 8 hours apart, yeah.
Yeah. Episode opened with a recap of 10 Lashes set to Soul of a Man by Charlie Harper. I thought it was a really good...
it's a well-edited way to do it, because they cut down some of the extraneous footage from the live broadcast.
Yeah. And this kind of stuff is honestly kind of like wrestling at its best.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sort of like edited down to music or whatever, and like kind of getting the story in this sort of, best possible way. But I thought this was a particularly good example of that. The next promo is from Jimmy Havoc. He says he's been off TV for a while, but he's been doing something no one else has. He's been paying attention. He's been listening. The table he's sitting at then cuts from a normal dinner table to one covered in plastic and torture implements, as Jimmy says his catchphrase, which is, "I hope you suffer." I think it's kind of weird.
We went from like a normal promo to Dexter.
Yeah, which I don't know if that really works in the universe that AEW has put together, but
it might. This is another one of those, like, let's give it a little bit more time.
Yeah. Next is some build up to Jungle Boy versus MJF with testimonials from the commentators. After that is a hype video for Nyla Rose versus Riho 3 to close out the show. Not a lot going on here. Not a lot that I can really cover other than JR really, really trying to get Jungle Boy Jack Perry over.
It has been for 6 months now.
Yeah. AEW Dark, Shoko Nakajima versus Riho. Actually, one of the better Joshi versus Joshi matches that we've seen on AEW. Shoko is 4 feet and 10 inches, which is the exact cutoff height for dwarfism in the United States.
Yeah, Excalibur had the line of the night. It's like, oh, look, this is the first time that Riho will have a height advantage.
But they talk so much on the commentary. Oh, she's 4 feet 10 inches. She's 4 feet 10 inches. And I was like, wow, that's really short. So I looked it up. I was like, wow, that is, if she was any shorter, she would be considered a little person in the United States.
Probably wears high heels a lot to avoid these issues.
Right. The match feels at times a little disjointed and a little sloppy, but not to a degree that kills it. I thought that they had a really good match here. And Riho
completely disagree.
Oh, really?
I hated this match, dude. It was so bad. It was sloppy, and like I was watching it. I was in Discord, and I was like, my feeling about Riho moving at half speed for everything. I thought it was because it was the language barriers, and she couldn't communicate with the talents. It's not. She just does it all the time, and it's bad.
It's tough because Kenny really brought in Joshi wrestling with like the legend of John Henry's hammer, right?
Yeah.
And was like, oh, it's this whole other, when you see it, it's going to change your life, man. It's this whole other style.
And it is. It's everything at half speed.
I agree with everyone who said, like, I don't really see it, man. It just feels like a wrestling match with 2 Japanese women. And it's fine, but I don't know that I'm feeling this, oh, it's this whole other thing you don't even know, man. I'm like, yeah, it's 2 Japanese women in a wrestling match.
Yeah, and that's just like what it feels like. And like the thing that's so weird for me is like you have this match, which is in my opinion, and this is my opinion, this is the match where Riho should have been the most comfortable. Because this is someone that she wrestles a lot or has wrestled quite a bit in the past, but she's still half speed, super timid, doesn't do a lot. But then you have her match on Dynamite this week with someone she's worked with 3, 4, maybe 5 times total.
Yeah.
And she's going full speed the whole time.
Yeah, it's really weird.
So I
really
don't
understand.
understand. And like, if these two matches hadn't happened in the same week, I probably wouldn't have noticed it as much. Mm-hmm. But, you know, Tuesday night watching this, Wednesday night watching the Dynamite match, it was like, what the fuck? And then, like, especially like last week, we had the mixed tag match with her and Kenny, and that was a decent match. She did a really good job. So I was like, I don't know what her hesitance is.
Yeah. So there's your official opinion, everybody. It's somewhere between pretty good and terrible. Sunny Kiss versus Jimmy Havoc followed this. Riho, of course, taking a win off a double knee on that one. Sunny Kiss and Jimmy Havoc. The match's story I thought was really well executed. It just wasn't very interesting. The play here is that Havoc is focusing on the hand, arm, and fingers of Sunny Kiss for like 10 minutes. There's no real twist to it. It's a really old school match in kind of a bad way. It gets pretty boring by the end of it. We had a promo after the match that sucked from Luther. Does a turn of phrase indicating that Havoc has a fondness for barbed wire baseball bats, despite him never having used them in AEW.
Yeah, I feel like Luther was trying to cut this promo to build a match with Jimmy Havoc, and like, okay, cool, 2 deathmatch guys, that should be interesting. But then you're sitting here and it's like, okay, you're pulling shit out of your ass and talking about his career pre-AEW, which no one who's watching this, for the most part, has any concept of.
It felt like he was pulling details out of like a promo book that he has already, and like changing nothing for it, right? Because he does this line about like, oh, you like barbed wire baseball bats? That's fine. I like baseball and I love barbed wire, right? But it's like, Jimmy Havoc's thing is the staple gun, dude.
Yeah,
he's never ever used a baseball bat with barbed wire.
And maybe he has in his the other promotions, which
right.
would make sense. But again, you have to treat this as if it's, you know, Stan Lee's old rule. You treat every comic book like it's someone's first comic book.
Right.
You got to treat a promo like that too.
Yeah, it felt really weird. The rest of the promo is just like I'm a crazy guy kind of stuff, you know. But we'll see. Like maybe the match is going to be really good. I don't know.
I don't know where. I imagine it's going to be on Dark in the near future.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll happen, you know, this week. I don't know. I mean, and by this week, I mean at the Atlanta taping, because I already saw the match listing for Dark next week.
Here, Tony announces 2 new dates. Boston, Massachusetts at Agganis Arena on April 15th and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on April 22nd. This is exciting. I don't know if I'll be able to make Boston, but it's exciting.
It's a I feel like it's an apology to the fans.
For what?
Well, these are the same 2 arenas and 2 cities that they did in the first run of shows. And these are the 2 of the shows that got hit the hardest by scalpers.
I don't think it's an apology. I think it's just a loop. I think they're just showing the back end of the loop. Now, it is interesting that they're showing the back end of the loop again before ever hitting the West Coast.
Well, and that's what makes me think that like this is a redo, because like if it was different arenas, sure, but they're going to the exact same arenas in the exact same order. So it's like kind of like, yeah, these shows got really fucked by scalpers.
Yeah, maybe. I can see that being the case. I don't know for sure, but I can see that being the case. Tickets are on sale today, Friday, February 14th, AEWTix.com.
Along with Double or Nothing.
Yeah, which JD and I will be at. Tickets secured for that, so we will be in Vegas. We would have been in Vegas.
We were going to Vegas anyways, but yeah.
But we'll be in the room with pretty great seats to see the show, so that'll be exciting, and all of our content around then will be suitably neutered in some ways and vastly improved in others.
The good news is we don't have to buy them off StubHub.
Right. Cassandra Golden versus Hikaru Shida. I really liked this match. Golden looked very good for only 2 years in, apparently. Shida won with a running single leg drop kick. It wasn't a very long match, but I thought they had a good bout out there.
It was one of those that's like a appropriate length for the experience of one of the performers. So it was right. Perfect. You highlighted them very much.
It wasn't a squash match at all.
No, not at all.
But it was over quickly enough that it was like, yeah, Shida beat her pretty quickly. Dark Order versus Jurassic Express closed the show. I thought it was a great main event match. Marco Stunt was the standout here. It's funny how much heat he got for being hired, and yet every match they put him in, I think he's the standout performer.
And I hate to say it, but this is like one of those moments where it really sucked with Luchasaurus getting injured, but it was the best thing that could have happened for Jurassic Express.
Right, because now at the time it felt like there was a really good duo act going on, and then Marco Stunt was just kind of thrown into it, and we didn't really know much about him. Now it feels like they have 3 stars.
Yep.
Because Luchasaurus has been kind of neutered in what he's able to do, and so they've kind of gone more with Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt as being.
Yeah, you could definitely tell, like in the when he did the run-in this match, that he is still kind of hindered by that torn ligament issue.
Yeah,
because he's still kind of moving about 3/4 speed, but he's on the mend.
Yeah, Marco had a couple of really brutal-looking sequences in this match. Dark Order took the win after Jungle Boy missed on a corner spear, and then the Dark Order took advantage with a fatality on Marco Stunt. After that, the Creepers came in for the beatdown on Luchasaurus when Luchasaurus made the save, dispatching all the Creepers and the Beaver Boys. Uno and Grayson overpower Luchasaurus, and then SCU come to even the odds, and the show ends with sort of a retreat from the Dark Order. I would have liked this a lot better if they didn't then repeat it the following night in the opening segment of Dynamite.
It was very strange how they did it on Dynamite. I didn't really. I mean, I get it because Battle Royale, but also. Right. The way they did it didn't really serve much of a purpose. Like, I get it, like, that you're building this good versus evil thing against the Dark Order, but, like, you can mimic and you can stage this a better way.
Yeah. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite, which came to us live from...
Austin.
Austin, Texas. Well, they said it was Austin.
It was in Austin.
It was in it. It's like when they say they're in Chicago, except for this time when they're actually going to Chicago. It was like in some like town near Austin. I know because they kept saying, "Oh, we're in this place in the shadow of Austin."
Oh, like when they say they're in like Patriots games, like, "Oh, we're in Boston." Like, no, the fuck, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're in Foxborough.
Yeah. You are 15 miles out a 2-lane road, motherfucker.
Hangman and Kenny versus SCU opened the show.
Fucking hot match to open the show with, dude.
I thought it was good. The wrestling style of Hangman and Kenny is sort of slower. Same with SCU. I thought the match was really good, even though it kind of felt a lot like deja vu. Between these two teams. Right before the opening bell, Dark Order came on the screen and said that they were waiting for the arrival of the Exalted One, and when the time is right, they will strike. Weirdly, CD then says he's going to go find them right now and goes to the back, and we don't see or hear from him again.
This match was definitely, I agree it was a slower form, but this was about building ring psychology.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I just don't necessarily know if that's the best thing to put in position number 1.
I mean, that match got that crowd hot as fuck.
Yeah, it worked for me. And I want to make it incredibly clear that when I first started, people should take my opinions on Dynamite this week with a grain of salt, because when I first started watching this episode, I had just gotten up from sleeping for like 28 hours, and I felt like absolute shit. And unfortunately, due to the timing of producing this show, I didn't really have a chance to watch it again in a better mood. So like some of the stuff I'm like, I don't really know. Like I felt like this show, people are like, oh man, amazing episode of Dynamite. I felt like generally it had a lot of pacing issues personally, but I don't know if that was the show or if it was that my entire body was in pain.
I think it. Okay, the show had some pacing issues, not a lot.
Sure.
I think you were in pain. You were pretty fucked up. Fucked up. So it just made it feel longer. Because like I felt this match was like, yeah, it's a little slow and very ring psychology based, but it was still a very fast moving match because I didn't realize at the end of it, it was like, oh shit, it's 8:30.
Yeah, I'm willing to take it on the chin for all of my opinions this week because I really don't know how much of it had to do with the quality of the show and how much of it had to do with how fucking miserable I was feeling throughout the entirety of the show. I wish I personally had more to say about this match, but it's Kenny versus SCU, and we've all seen it. It's really good, but it is what it is. SCU worked slightly more heel in this match than they have in the past, but not in a way that I thought was so dramatically clear that like, oh, they're bad guys now. It was just more like, no, they're slightly more desperate than they have been.
It was definitely the desperation aspect. They played some heel shit, but it wasn't because, oh yeah, fuck everybody. It was like, no, we're getting our belts back. These are ours. And like the stuff with Hangman on Twitter this week has been fucking money. It's like somebody asked him on Twitter, is like, hey man, are you worried about losing those belts on Dynamite this week? No, I already threw Scorp's nameplate away.
It was nice to see Hangman sort of playing kind of slow and uncoordinated throughout the match. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Did you catch the name card?
Yeah, the Days Sober thing.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
It was so good.
Hangman and Kenny win with a buckshot / V-trigger combo. And Hangman and Kenny leave Kaz and Scorp in the ring as the Dark Order come down to attack. But Chuck and Trent come to even the odds. Then out come Butcher, Blade, and Bunny, and Hybrid 2, and then the Bucks. And then the teams sort of do a preview of next week's Battle Royal with the Bucks cleaning the ring and then toping onto the other teams.
That was a real bold spot that they did of them both going, and there were, normally when they do that spot of, oh yeah, I'm going off the top into the crowd, you have 5-6 guys to catch you.
Right.
This was 3 each.
And they were kind of jumping at each other.
Yeah. not what you would typically do.
Yeah, also kind of weird that they chose to do something that previews like something that's going to happen on TV next week. But hey.
It was good to see what teams were going to be involved in the Battle Royale because we didn't really know.
Right.
And then we got the full match graphic later in the episode. I'm not totally sure how this Battle Royale is going to work. I'm very curious, and I think it's going to be a clusterfuck of epic proportions. But it's going to be awesome.
We don't know if it's elimination per person or elimination per team. We also don't know. I assume it would be over the top rope because that's kind of
going to have to be on TV.
Yeah. There's some messing around with the Bucks and Orange Cassidy during the break. They didn't really have anything planned for the picture-in-picture, so they're just kind of messing around. After the break, JR has a sit-down with Santana. And Santana talks about a time in his life where he had been gripped particularly hard by depression, where he had felt like every waking moment was, quote, darkness, end quote. He called his father at 3:30 in the morning, and his father answered, as he expected him to. Santana's father found it easier to relate to his situation than most. having been told that he would begin to lose his vision at the age of 14. The man, who passed away this month, had lived every day in darkness. Easy to see now why a threat to Santana's vision would be a sensitive subject. JR made an attempt to help Santana recognize his place in all this, but Santana refuses to take responsibility for what happened to Mox in the first place. Yeah, this was really interesting, and after we did the show last week where he talked about him having the worst month of his life, I did check on his Instagram, and he talked about his father having passed away. So this was a great way to sort of bring that story in. Talking about his father's blindness as well, I thought was a really interesting wrinkle to the story. So
he continues to give amazing promo after amazing promo. One of the things I've read this week, and it's like, one in a million that where you agree with Meltzer is like, after the stuff with the Inner Circle is finished off and that's run its course, his opinion was that they needed to pull Santana and Ortiz to be baby faces because fuck, they're good at it.
Yeah. No, they're great.
And
they're great at everything, man.
Yeah, they're really
fantastic.
are. And like I'm curious to see those two guys going babyface because I think that they can really do a lot of very interesting stuff.
A lot of really interesting stuff, and I think AEW has an opportunity to be centric outside of white culture.
Yes,
hopefully,
very much so.
In a way that WWE is apparently incapable of, because they basically never have been. And I think Santana and Ortiz are the performers to really bring that in AEW. And I think as long as everyone involved at the top end is okay with that, I think we can really have Hispanic heroes that aren't Rey Mysterio in wrestling for people of this generation, and I think that'd be really really cool to see on the show, and I think that's something they could really take advantage of because WWE is not going to do it, and somebody should be. It's a lot of money to leave on the table. Next, we get a vignette from Darby Allin, which is all told through note cards, which I thought was particularly creative. Allin says that smashing his throat on the skateboard was a mistake and that all involved will learn. But in the meantime, end quote, Sammy, you busy at Revolution? Hit me up. Next is a drawing that says, quote, kissing Jericho's ass gave me herpes.
That was so fucked up, dude.
Really weird. Really weird.
It was a good shot, man, and I approve. But man, I was like, damn.
And I love that he did it with the note cards. But that's another match on the card. That'll be a great match for Revolution.
Yes, absolutely will.
Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara, a great opener match, and I think I'm in favor of it. We move on to Dustin Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara. This match is another sort of rerun from recent times. This match happened on the January 1st episode.
It was, but I feel like that it's a rematch, but it was done and worked completely different.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Dustin and Guevara worked really well together. I thought the story was compelling. It was done in a completely different way. Dustin being constantly distracted by his ire for Jake Hager. Dustin pins Sammy off of a final reckoning.
Anyone would be, except you.
Right. For now.
Oh, thank God.
Reckoning as he stares into the eyes of Jake Hager. As they walk away, Dustin grabs a mic. He says, "Turn around," and Sammy turns around. He says, "I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Jericho's bitch." And that's when Hager turns around, don't turn around then.
And then he's just like standing there, and like you can read his lips. He's like, "You want to go? You want to go, bro?" And I was like, "Dude, stop going into the stereotype, man."
Dustin says, "Are you ever going to step in the ring, or are you just going to keep collecting a paycheck? You're failing at your MMA career. You're failing here before you've even started. You broke my arm, and I want a piece of your ass at Revolution." All I need is for you to accept it. End quote.
Yeah, so here's where I'm going to go on my JR rant for the week. Because he's sitting there and he's like, oh, well, Jake Hager's career is going great in MMA. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, old man?
Well, he's undefeated in MMA. He's just not working for like a company anyone gives a shit about.
Well, number one, yes, he is undefeated in Bellator, which, fine, it's a televised promotion. Number two, he fought 2 guys who are basically amateurs. Mm-hmm. He beat the shit out of one, and it was a guy he had no business. The other guy had no business being in the ring.
Yeah.
Number 3, he didn't win the second match because he kneed the dude in the dick 3 times. So, not really sure what you want here, but that's not really a blossoming MMA career. Because
he's just towing the company line at this point, which, you know, I didn't take that nearly as much as during the match for Nyla and Riho this week. He said that it was the main event when there were 2 matches on after.
Yeah, he clearly had no fucking idea what was going on. Then they randomly started talking about some book that he had a ghostwriter write for him. And it was like, oh, okay, I guess we're not going to talk about barbecue sauce this week.
After this, we got a promo from Britt that was. There's another Britt promo. It's
like
I don't know. I don't want to harp on her every week but she's bad every week. So it's like not every, with the exception of that one where she was brilliant for some reason.
So
and then
the room was super hot. She got a lot of heat. My thing is, she did not get any heat while she was doing her own gimmick that is clearly her idea. All the dentist shit, it was going over like a rotten fish.
Yeah.
When she started like calling out the crowd and being a real heel and being a bitch, that's when she got heat.
Yeah.
To me, and maybe this is just because of things I see, but it's like, it looks like to me she's just trying to be Chelsea Green because she's dressing like Chelsea Green, and acting like that kind of catty, bitchy girl from high school kind of shit.
Right. I mean, like basically every bad guy female wrestler in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Basically.
Except not good.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because I'm rooting for her every week to come out and cut a promo that I don't think is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, man. Like I want the one that she had just to not be that lightning in a bottle. I really do. But
it's really weird, and the dentist stuff specifically is the stuff that's really not working. And I don't know why she's sticking to where she comes out and she talks about. You're very specific dentist talk about teeth and stuff. It's like nobody cares.
No, if I wanted to hear that shit, I would go to the dentist.
But even then, I don't want
to hear it. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm just as confused as you are because this was just a train wreck.
Nyla Rose versus Riho for the AEW Women's Championship. This is one of, if not the best women's match we've seen in AEW.
Yeah. And what's funny is like as we were going like maybe 3/4 of the way through this match, I posted in Discord like the ending of this match is gonna piss me off, and like 3 or 4 people were like, "Yep," and then it didn't, and I was like, "Okay, I'm good with this now."
Oh, come on. Thank God. Thank God for editing.
What, you're not going to leave this in?
I felt like there were just enough false finishes here, just enough tension, really the right feel, the right winner, It was just a good fight on the program. And after some really close calls from Riho that had me on the edge of my seat, even feeling as shitty as I was at the time, Nyla hit Riho with the Beast Bomb and won the championship. And immediately, oh man, from this happening to her grabbing the belt, to her walking backstage. She walks backstage. She takes this awkward hug and congratulations from TK. She shared some real awkward heat with a deeply disappointed Kenny Omega and the rest of the women's roster. And she's talking about how, oh man, Jericho got grapes and bubbly, and I don't get any of that, you know. And immediately reminded me, oh man, it's cool having a champion who can fucking talk to me.
Yeah.
And it's not a big effort. It's not, I don't want to be, because like I'd be fine with Sheeta as champion because Sheeta can speak good enough English that she can talk without subtitles. Having Nyla take over, she's intimidating as shit. It's easy to see how she could beat anyone on the roster. She's
including half the men.
Her character's dialed in. She's she stands face to face with Kenny, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure she could kick Kenny's ass. And she can. Speaking is not like this big difficult thing for her. She can just say what her character would say in the moment.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it was like, oh yeah, this is what having a champion is like. I remember.
Like Nyla's had some missteps, especially since the premiere episode of Dynamite, where they were like trying to figure her character out, and it took a while to dial it in. The whole disappointed shit with Kenny was fucking dumb to me, and it really highlighted to me some of the scuttlebutt that's been going around about, tensions on the book and the female creative having some tensions there.
Well, I mean, it does my thing about it is it did continue to paint Riho as like a child that Kenny is living vicariously through or something like that, right? Like, she really doesn't stand on her own. It's really just Kenny's project or whatever.
Right.
Which I don't think is a good thing to continue to creatively paint a championship contender as.
No. And like I talked about it earlier, like how Riho ran full speed in this match, and it showed, and it was good, and she was good, and that's the thing that really needs to happen that she doesn't do with anybody else. And like, I don't know what the deal is, but something I may never figure out. I really enjoyed this match. I was texting with Chief Intern during this because she woke up out of also having the flu, and she started watching because like her and I have been talking. It's like, hey, you really need to watch Dynamite this week because we're going next week. You need to know what's going on.
Right.
And she texted me, was like, who the fuck is this scary bitch on TV? And I was like, that's Nyla Rose. She's I think she's like Apache Indian. She's scary as fuck, isn't she? And she was like, yeah. And I like it. And I'm like, yeah, right? And then like 2 minutes later, she's like, why is she beating up a child? That's not right. And I was like, she's a grown woman.
Next is a promo from Jericho. Oh man, a promo from Jericho. The champion says that he's contracted a killer to fight Mox next week if he manages to make it through an eye for an eye. And this man has toured the world for years, and his name is Jeff Cobb.
Look, yeah, actually a fucking killer, man. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Cobb is all in it. Now, JD and I are immensely familiar with Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb played a character on Lucha Underground called Matanza, who was basically a god for all intents and purposes. Yeah. I don't think anybody ever kicked out of his finishing move on the show.
There were a couple people who were legitimately injured by his finishing move.
Jeff Cobb, former Olympian, just an unbelievable performer. He's, got this short, stocky body, but people I love Jeff Cobb, and it was one of those situations where, like, man, I wish they'd surprise me with that at the end, but I think they're learning from the Luther thing, from a couple of other things that, like, they don't want to expect someone has a pop, and then they show up, and
no pop.
People are like, who the fuck is this guy, right? The Dark Order was the same way, right? So they kind of, like, they threw it out ahead of time. They're like, Jeff Cobb is going to show up, guys.
I don't know, man. I think if they'd done, well, they didn't pop that Jeff Cobb was going to show up at the end of Dynamite.
Right.
They said he's going to show up next week. If they hadn't have done this and Jeff Cobb had just showed up, there would have been a hell of a pop.
I think it would have been fine because even here where they like mentioned it ahead of time, people were like, "Oh fuck, Jeff Cobb!" Like people in the crowd like were stoked on it.
Yeah,
a bunch of people in the Discord server were stoked on it. Jeff Cobb is enough of a name, enough of a recent name that I think people would have been fine. But good on them. I think good on them to not like send him out there to get no pop if they were worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the quick promo video they did. It was great. Dude he's a fucking monster.
Dude, and like I was trying to say, I love Jeff Cobb, and I've seen a lot of Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb looked better last night than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He looked cool. The long hair totally works for him in a big way.
Especially since we're used to seeing him in just a fucking painter's fucking suit and the biggest like mask that you could ever possibly put on someone.
He looked like a star last night, man. It was crazy. And we're going to talk more about him later, but he looked great.
Yeah, I mean, I was super stoked. Like after end of the night, I was talking to our intern again. She was like, "So what's been announced for next week?" I'm really excited. And I was like, "You remember that guy that from like the 3 episodes of Lucha Underground you watched that just fucking murdered everybody, Matanza?" And she's like, "Yeah, I remember him. He scared the shit out of me." And I was like, "Yeah, he's coming to AEW and he's gonna fuck Mox up next week." And she's like, "Okay, that sounds amazing." I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be great." Because like you got a dude who you look at him, he's like, "Okay, he's a hoss. He's gonna just wrestle like a big man." No. Motherfucker runs around like Rey Mysterio and wrestles like a luchador. It's insane.
Dude, he's great. He's the total package, man. And I think we're really going to be surprised. And he's apparently been signed enough that they put out a Jeff Cobb is all elite thing for him and everything like that.
Which is going both ways in the dirt sheets and has been very fucking funny all day today reading about he's only signed for 1 episode. No, you're all idiots. He's only signed for 1 episode. He's still working in ROH and New Japan. I was like, yeah, okay.
Here's the deal with this stuff, and it's going to be kind of our MO moving forward on this show. AEW has shown that they're willing to be incredibly flexible when it comes to talent signings. Their signings are far more complicated than basically any other company that we've dealt with. We have the Lucha Brothers who have another title shot next week, still aren't officially signed to AEW in an exclusive capacity.
And haven't been for 9 months. Actually, longer than that.
But they're arguably like the second or third biggest tag team stars on the show. So when it comes to like speculation about, oh, is he signed full time? Even though full time like doesn't really mean anything here, or are they signed only on a part time basis? Are they exclusive or whatever? Like they're gonna be here when they're here, and they're gonna not be here when they're not here. Because even people that were signed full time, like Statlander, ended up missing a show because they had a booking somewhere else,
and
right? So
hasn't been on TV in like 3 weeks,
right? It doesn't really mean anything for AEW right now. So until that changes, like it's not really worth checking or being upset about it.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things like Tony and the Bucks and Cody and everyone have said from day one, and like, yeah. We don't expect everybody on TV or at tapings, 50 weeks out of the year. People can take time off. People can go do other shit. We don't care.
Yeah. MJF versus Jungle Boy.
Loved this match.
I thought the match was really good. Brandy is on commentary for this match and is very apologetic for her previous appearance on commentary. Another thing to kind of put to bed this other angle that they were doing that wasn't working, that they got rid of. It's a great little exhibition for both guys. Jungle Boy being the superior physical performer, MJF being the superior psychologist, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, you had this match where you honestly have the two guys who will be the faces of the company in 10 years. And headlining whatever year-end pay-per-view that they do for, trilogy matches.
Right.
And you can tell very much so just by this like 5-minute match.
Yeah. There was an incredible part when MJF grabbed his dick and said, "Hey, Brandy, you could have a real man,"
Oh my
which
God,
got
dude,
legit heat from JR. I thought JR was going to get off of the table and storm
and
out.
it's like, old man, shut the fuck up.
No, it sold it. It was so great,
you
dude.
can shut up. I'll tell you what. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was
Show some respect. Show some respect.
it was a
It's like,
straight
all
up
right,
Hank Hill moment, man.
Wardlow then came to ringside and slipped the ring onto MJF's finger, which helped MJF put a knockout punch on Jungle Boy,
And
followed by the double cross.
That's straight up classic heel moves. He did.
I thought it was great.
He did the flare strut halfway through the match. Was perfect. It was like he's doing the the 70s, 80s heel shit, and it works for him because unlike people who have tried to do that in the past, he can pull it off.
Because his conviction is better.
Yeah, because
it just comes down to the performance, right? Like, you can be a band that plays stuff that feels a little old, but if you play it really well, it doesn't really matter. But here, he's doing stuff that isn't that different from what anyone would have done back in the day, but nobody else is doing it now. And certainly not to the quality of performance that he's doing.
No, not at all. And, he's living the gimmick. So it's not like it's, there was that long period of time with like John Cena where he was like, I'm the straight heel. I'm a gangster. I'm all this shit. And then you see this thing. Oh, John Cena's going and visiting 15 kids for Make-A-Wish. And it's like, what? What the fuck's going on? Like you it was just so out of character, and it broke the belief of wrestling. And you have MJF out here who's on Twitter just being a fucking savage to people, and he walks around the ring every week trying to get girls and guys to kiss the ring, ripping signs up, just having a fucking blast with everything, and it's so great.
Wardlow hits Jungle Boy with a modified F5 after the match. As we sort of move away from this segment, that modified F5 looks like it's going to end up being his sort of finisher.
Probably. I'm curious to see him pull it off with someone who's bigger than Jungle Boy.
I don't think he'll have a problem. Wardlow's a big guy.
He's a big dude, but that's a whirlwind move.
Sure. A new I Heart AEW t-shirt is going up on Pro Wrestling Tees next week. 20% of profits go to the American Heart Association. You can look this up, but they also did a partnership with, I think, also the American Heart Association about donations.
That's still going as far as I'm aware, I think, until the end of this weekend. Kind of pissed me off.
You donate, I think, $50, right?
$50 or more, you get a pair of tickets to Atlanta AEW Dynamite. Because it's, I think it's the Atlanta chapter that they're focusing on, but the American Heart Association is nationwide. Wish I had known. Spent a lot more money than that on my tickets, but oh well.
Well, it's not only that. It's like if you're looking for an opportunity to support a good cause and also get tickets to the show and also write it off on your taxes, I guess this is an opportunity to do that for you. If you're in the area, if you just figured out that you're going to be able to go, then maybe look it up and maybe try and do it this way, because this way you can get the tickets to the show on late notice. You're only going to spend
$50,
$50,
which is less than you would pay on Ticketmaster for 2 of the cheapest tickets.
Right, and you're going to help the American Heart Association, which is a good cause, right? So,
yep. And I think their headquarters actually is in Atlanta, so that's part of it.
Right.
I definitely support this foundation. My dad had a quadruple bypass when I was 15. Mm-hmm. So anything we can do to help out the Heart Association is always a good thing in my mind. Kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. I wish they'd done a little bit more press about it, about the shirt and also the ticket thing, because I know they're doing part of it too because they really want to sell Atlanta out, and I don't blame them for that. But it's just kind of flying a little bit under the radar, and I think that's a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, they really want to sell Atlanta out. They already sold out Revolution. Double or Nothing's going to sell out.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
think probably as you're listening to this, it's probably sold out.
Yeah, I don't
about
see tickets lasting more than an hour or two tomorrow. Or today, rather.
At general sale, we have our tickets from pre-sale, but I think in general sale they're going to sell pretty quickly. So they're looking to kind of move a couple of big sellout shows pretty soon. Here we got an awesome pre-tape promo from Pac, which was, he's just so fucking good. And whoever he's having doing his videography is doing an excellent job. The promo basically all about how Kenny hasn't been the same since Pac choked him out at All Out. And he's just fantastic, man. And every time we get a new promo from him, I'm like, I can't wait till he's the guy for a bit.
Yeah. It's a masterclass in promos.
You know, like, I love Jericho, and if they continue with Jericho after Revolution, okay, but I'm sitting here going like, oh man, there's so many other great guys I want to see get it. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, the Jericho thing's cool, but like, I'm excited to see somebody else get their hands on it and see what they can do. And it's not even like, it's not even like I dislike in the Jericho thing or I think he's doing a bad job or I'd be pissed if he continues to have it. It's more just like, oh man, you know, what would it be like on Mox or Kenny or Pac or any of these guys? That's what I want to see, you know?
Yeah, it's not something you typically see in a lot of companies. You're usually like, okay, there's 3 guys, and that's it. That's who can really make something with this championship. And then like AEW, you just like the whole fucking roster, dude, could hold the championship and it'd be an amazing run.
Yeah. Next week, Lucha Brothers will not be in the Tag Team Battle Royale because they have a title shot against Hangman and Kenny live in Atlanta, where JD will be live. We move on to Moxley versus Santana, which was the main event match, eye for an eye. Jericho watches this one from box seats with Guevara and Hager. Great, brutal main event match. It starts in the crowd before the bell even rings, and a lot of sort of eye attacks throughout the match. Both men being just ruthless, with Ortiz at ringside sort of interfering here and there. The big turn comes when Moxley climbs the turnbuckle and Ortiz knocks back a flask that he has with him and then just spits alcohol into Moxley's eye, his good remaining eye. Although it's interesting, he didn't have the Band-Aid on underneath this week.
Well, no, because he had this, big, elaborate, big boss eye patch on.
I was half expecting him to, at some point in the match, tear it off and be like, I'm healed.
Yeah, I was as well. I mean, I know he kind of wrestled without the eye patch while he was in Japan because Suzuki just ripped it off, which was great. And then he gave this promo at the end of the match where he kind of forgot, oh yeah, one of my eyes is bad. But he remembered and he caught himself, which was hilarious, seeing the gifs and stuff of it.
Right.
I think they took the time and put together these eye patches, and they made one for Ortiz or for Santana too, where it's like, yes, it's an eye patch. They can clearly see through it, so it's not a hindrance to them, and they're not, putting each other in danger because I have no peripheral vision or depth perception. But all the eye attacks, it was so well done between all 3 guys. And then, we get to the end of the match, and it kind of ends very quickly and a little suddenly.
Yeah.
But, man, it was so good.
And I like that it ended with them sort of both, like, blindly, like, flailing around. And it's literally just Mox's reaction time is better.
Yeah.
And blindly sort of slaps on the paradigm shift, hits Santana for the 1-2-3, and that's when the inner circle attack. First Ortiz, then Hager and Guevara and Jericho, and then Jeff Cobb comes to the ring and hits Mox with Tour of the Islands for the end of the show. I thought it was awesome. I'm so excited to see Jeff Cobb next week.
Dude, it's the same finisher he had in Lucha Underground, the End of the World, right?
Yes.
so down,
Yes.
man. I can't wait, man. He's gonna. I love Moxley, and Moxley is a deeply damaged individual. Jeff Cobb is gonna fuck him up.
Yeah, he used a finisher called Wrath of the Gods in Lucha Underground, and Wrath of the Gods was the same move as his Tour of the Islands move, which is what he uses everywhere else, and it's that sort of spinning slam that he does. Atlanta has Wardlow versus Cody in a steel cage, Jeff Cobb versus John Moxley, Lucha Brothers versus Hangman and Kenny, and a tag team battle royale, which is a fucking hot show.
Can't wait, dude. Can't wait. It's like it's
another one of these sort of mini pay-per-view events, basically.
for sure. And I understand all of the reasoning why they're going in the same building that WWE does. They want to have a hot crowd. It's Cody's hometown. It's partially the hometown of AEW. Because a lot of the guys live in Atlanta now, so they're pulling out all the stops for one of the homecoming shows.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a huge week, and I can't wait to get through it. Revolution just around the corner at this point, so we're really sort of shoring things up, and I'll hopefully get more matches on the official card for that, which they're sold out in Chicago. So
of course they are.
We're going to see where that goes, right? AEW ratings this week, 817K to NXT's 757K. The interesting thing here is that it was a go-home show for NXT.
Yeah, I think
they still lost.
Brought Charlotte back, too.
Yeah. Unfortunate for them.
They're reaching, man.
But, well, that's what happens when you only bring a product to TV on a rushed deal, so that you can counter-program somebody you don't like, and not because you have any specific creative vision of your own.
And then in your earnings call saying you're not worried about the competition at all. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, old man?
Yeah, we'll just see. We'll just see if Bezos rolls up to the table with a big fat check.
Yeah, that earnings call was real rough for Vince.
Can you even imagine?
If
YouTube, iTunes,
if
Spotify,
Bezos just
and
rolled up to the table and just...
Have you seen that?
I have seen that. I've seen...
that speculation? That's pretty wild.
I've seen a lot of speculation.
I never even
on that.
imagined that somebody else would buy that. And I talked to somebody, Anthony or whoever, and they were like, I don't think that Vince would sell. I was like, bro, you put enough fucking money on the table, I think anybody sells. Vince wasn't lying when he says everybody got a price, right? That's his writing. It might be someone else's gimmick, but it's his writing.
I've seen Amazon coming after it. I've seen the thing like, they're going to sell the network to like another streaming service or a pay-per-view service, and it's like it's been a lot of speculation because that earnings call was not good.
Well, gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. I just, I can see. That's the type of thing that I can definitely see a content streamer like Amazon buying in a heartbeat, because it's live content for them weekly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one, almost 1-to-1 match of why they bought Twitch,
and basically the entire fucking sport of pro wrestling in one buy.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I love alternative wrestling and have been or have attempted to be a voice for alternative pro wrestling for the last more than half a decade, buying WWE is tantamount to buying the sport of pro wrestling. For a lot of people.
It really is. And that's what I'm saying, that like when they bought Twitch, it was the exact same basis. Like they bought streaming and esports.
Yeah.
Now, both of those industries have expanded past Twitch, and while it's still heavily on Twitch and it's moved a little bit past, they still have the lion's share of content there on a daily, hourly basis.
Yeah. So I can see them doing that for Prime.
It'd be insane.
It would shock me only because it's unprecedented, but not because I think it's a bad deal for Amazon. I mean, I think it's a bad deal for Amazon because their content sucks now. But
I'm very curious to see the deal, though. It's gonna be fucking baller.
Right. I think if they roll up with that fucking Disney money, right, then it's like, all right. Okay.
It's going to have to be like Disney buying Lucasfilm's money, though.
Yeah. It would have to be that much, which I don't think that they're worth.
No,
that, but
not at all.
Maybe with all the catalog, but even then. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite. Twitter @Seeing the Elite. If you really want to be in with the crew, in with our super AEW homies from all over the world. tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite gets you the invite to our Discord server, where we are just having a blast day in and day out, loving AEW wrestling and everything else under the sun. We need suggestions for our Patreon issue coming up. So please send us your questions, no matter how crazy they are, and we'll answer them on the show. But once again, if you want to become one of our best friends, one of our inner circle, head to patreon.com/Seeing the Elite and subscribe to the boys. Thanks to all of you who have watched the show live, and thanks to our patrons, Adam Dyson, Alejandro Diaz, Andre Gunther, Bill Laviolette, Chai Latte, Chris Genro, Cody Fagu, Ale Avoth, Gary Rains, Keith Kazulno, Kevin Bartlett, Merman, and Peter. Thank you guys so much. You help make the show run every week, and we couldn't be more thankful for you guys. Outside of that, Jonathan, do you have anything more for these people before we go?
Yeah, so I will be at Dynamite this coming week. I will more than likely be wearing my All Out shirt and a Devil's hat. So if you see me, I'll have stickers. My girlfriend will also have stickers and will more than likely be, joined at the hip with me. But feel free to come up, say hi. I will give you a sticker if you say hi. But yeah, feel free. Happy to talk to anybody who loves the show and wants to talk about the show. Just have a little mini meetup, but not really, because I don't really like people.
We'll be back next week with another episode of Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. Until then, go out and change the world.
I know what